Hey people, you know me, I play for the Chicago Bears too. Every game since 1981 in these freezing winters. So you know I've done my duty.
Steve McMichael. Mongo. Ming the Merciless. Whatever you called him, he was a force to be reckoned with, on and off the field.
Steve McMichael, I think, was the complete picture as a defensive tackle. He did everything well.
Come on, hello.
Steve would be what you'd call a company guy. He was a team guy. You can always depend on him to do his job and be where he's supposed to be.
Taste the bite of that defensive rush. Steve McMichael, 76, was there first to polish him off.
He was one of those guys who would take on the double team so someone else could do a loop and make a sack. Or he would hold the guard so the guard couldn't get to the linebacker so the linebacker could make a tackle.
220 games. Look at the amount of sacks he's got. Look at the amount of consecutive games he's played. Look at the way that offensive linemen around the league complement his style of play. You think about why was his defense so great? Yeah, you had your Richard, you had Hamp, you had Singletary, but Steve McMichael played an equally as important role as anybody.
Sacked by Steve McMichael with two defensive tackles.
It was amazing watching Steve do the things he did. It was incredible. It was unbelievable.
He's fourth all time among defensive tackles in sacks. And he also was an outstanding run player. You know, the Bears had the best run defense in the NFL over a 10-year span. He led the team for 7 of those years. So, you know, if you're looking for holes in his game, you're not going to find them.
Threatening offenses in a uniquely menacing manner. Mongo's game was toughness. In fact, the very definition of the word.
Toughness is a lost quality today in a lot of life, but in football. You know, being able to withstand such a violent beating and inflicting so much pain, your body wasn't made to play football. And Steve, you know, like John Wayne said, he's the toughest man south of the picket wire. Next to me.
We're proud of our people. We like our people. For those who don't like our people, that's tough. We like them.
Mike Ditka, who has been around a lot of football players and is a pretty tough guy himself, once said that Steve McMichael was the toughest player that he'd ever seen, and that means a lot.
Thomas fumbles the ball, and the Bears have it. Steve McMichael comes up with the football.
Lordy, lordy, lordy. Do you believe this?
That's blood all over the thigh pad of McMichael. I don't believe it's his.
Of all of his accomplishments, the longevity thing, I mean, I have no idea how he did it. It was like a car wreck every play, you know, and how many of those do you have in you? Well, he had more than anybody in the history of the Chicago Bears.
You know, he came from a small town in Texas, hunted rattlesnakes for a hobby. You know, he was different. He was different from everybody.
Different is an understatement. McMichael's unwavering work ethic and unique athletic ability was unmatched from a young age.
One of the things that he really prided himself on is being dependable and being a teammate. That's what he was all about. When you play at the University of Texas, that's who you are, and that's who he was.
See, I'd come from Arkansas, and we played in the Fiesta, the Cotton, the Orange. I mean, we were a great team. And yet, we never beat Texas, which Steve was a part of Texas.
They nicknamed him Bam Bam down in Austin. He graduated as the school's all-time leader in career tackles and sacks, foreshadowing the historic defenses he would soon be a part of in the league. But it was not a smooth road to get there.
He didn't fit in with the Patriots culture, even though they invested a draft pick in him. Their coach said that he was part of the NFL's criminal element, and they ended up cutting him in his second training camp. So he was out of work for a little bit. The Steelers tried him out, and the Bears tried him out, and he was a natural in Buddy Ryan's defense. And before long, the Bears brought in other players and built an entire defense that was potentially the greatest of all time.
It's euphoria. To come out of that tunnel before a game, the goosebumps, people screaming for you. If everybody could do that, they would know true elation.
Now, he and Dan Hampton were kind of kindred spirits, even though they were different personalities. The first time they met was when McMichael came to town to sign with the Bears. Hampton picked him up at curbside at O'Hare, and they went straight to a bar, of course. And from then on, they were thick as thieves, and they did so much together on and off the field.
Steve and I, we were pig and slop, and we couldn't drink it up quick enough, fast enough. We would go to training camp like it was a crusade, and we wanted to terrorize our offense, toughen them up, if you would.
Steve would come up to me before practice and he'd say, "Hey, Tommy, I just want to tell you, I'm not going to go easy today in practice, and you better be ready. We're going to get at it." Just telling me, "Look, man, make sure you got air in your helmet, make sure you got all your fingers and wrists taped up, and be ready for a game-type competition on the practice field."
Our guys would be barking.
We're going to kill him. We're going to knock him out.
And the quarterback get underneath the center crying. And we got blood coming out of his ears and blood coming out of his nose, a black eye, and you're looking at him, you're like, oh man, this kid, this guy's got a family too. Let's not kill him, but that's who we were. It's who we were.
I think the only thing that can jinx us is Bourbon Street.
Dragged down by Steve McMichael. Fumble. The Bears have it at hungry Chicago. Finally champions on this January day in New Orleans.
The motor that made that defense go was in large part to what Steve was able to bring.
Here's the snap to Chris Chandler. Looks downfield, hit from behind, down he goes. Steve McMichael on the sack.
Everybody that we played, their offensive coordinator saying, well, we got to make sure we block 76.
Everybody's after you guys all the time.
We're the Giant. Everybody wants to be Jack.
It was just that type of respect. And you don't get that given to you. You got to earn it, and he did it.
I think he gave everything he had to the game. He kept playing and playing and playing. Even when the Bears said, you can't play anymore, you're done, he went up to Green Bay and signed with their arch rival just for the love of the game. When he finally retired, there wasn't a drop of football left in his body.
While the curtain closed on football, a new chapter in professional performance opened for McMichael. From ringside commentator, then member of the Four Horsemen, Mongo continued to perform.
Mongo going into the WWF wrestling world. Perfect. Perfect.
Horrifying. No, he was great. Mongo just went along with it and laughed, and he just had fun.
I remember going to one of his wrestling matches, and all these wrestlers that you see on TV that have years and years of success, they gravitated towards me because it was his personality that was as big as anybody's in the room of some large personalities. And that's the greatest thing about McMichael is whatever type of room he walked into, he complimented the room.
Please welcome our special guest on the Mike Ditka Show, Steve McMichael.
He did post-game commentary on the 10:30 news in a way that it had never been done before, and probably, thankfully, has not been done since. On Monday mornings, there was always this buzz. Did you see McMichael last night?
I'm going to go buy an Irish Wolfhound and just beat the out of him every day. My defense mechanism is my comedy, my candor, my vulgarity.
It was must-watch TV. He walked in there with his Chihuahua Peppy. Sometimes he had a friendly knife with him, but it was just part of what he was going to do to Gina Greco, whether it be cutting his tie off or grabbing him in a headlock.
In every endeavor, from owning a namesake restaurant to leading the Chicago Slaughter to a Continental Indoor Football League championship, to singing in a rock and roll band with former teammates, Steve McMichael was a friend to all.
One of the nicest people I've ever met in my life, and wilder than me, and that's saying a lot. Just every time you're with him, just a great guy to be with, a lot of personality, fun, congenial, got along with everybody, and you'd never know that he was anything special, which he was to me, of course, and to any football fan. but he was just a regular guy.
There's old Steve just chugging along. Yeah, I like that image for myself. Yeah, I don't want to be the idol of millions. I just want to play football and be in my own little world like you've enjoyed this afternoon.
He saw himself as a man of the people. So many people will tell you, I've got a picture of me with Steve McMichael. I've got an autograph with him. I saw him in a bar. I went up to him. He was authentic. He was himself. I think that probably mattered in terms of how popular he's become and how important this Hall of Fame quest was for a lot of Bears fans.
In January of 2021, Mongo had a new challenge: to prove he is just as tough as he's always been.
So my phone rang one night. It was about 11 o'clock, 11:30 at night. And I pick it up and, hey, Ming, what's up? What's going on? He goes, hey, Tommy, I wanted to tell you something. And I go, yeah, Ming, tell me, what do you need? You need something? And no, he goes, I just wanted to tell you that I got diagnosed with ALS, and I just wanted you to hear it from me because this is a battle that I'm going to be in. And I'm going, no way.
Well, it took my breath away. I know what that's about. I know a few people that have had it, and it's just a slowly deteriorating disease. Just being able to see him, play with him, and then you go see him and you're kneeling next to the bed. It's hard to conceive, hard to really get your arms around.
He seemed to be one of those people who would just be impervious to this kind of disease, this kind of illness. In my mind, I still picture him as this 270-pound defensive tackle who could play through anything. You know, how could he ever suffer this kind of illness?
I was in shock. I had just seen him maybe a year before, and he he said, I can't drink anymore, I got gout. And I go, yeah, I guess that's going to stop you, right? Like, because Steve is the kind of guy, he doesn't care. You know what I mean? He used to say to me, I got more money than I got time, kid. What do you want to do tonight?
The first time I went over to his house after he told me about the diagnosis, Jay Hilgenberg and I went over to see him. And we walked in the house, and this is when he still could walk, and so he was kind of shuffling across the living room floor. And as a joke, I said, Jay, this is it, man. This is our one time to get him. You know, after all the beatings that he put on us, we can finally get him. He goes, oh, hell, I knew you guys were up to something.
One thing about Steve McMichael is that he has always fully embraced life in every way you can, and he still is embracing it, and he won't give up. He wants to live. He certainly wanted to live for his Hall of Fame induction.
A colorful and key part of arguably the best defense in history, represented by his wife, Misty, Steve McMichael.
Oh, I was ecstatic, of course, we all were, but you know, to even be put on hold. I mean, the only reason Steve wasn't, there's so many Bears from that team on it. I think they look at each other one day and say, hey, we could have all 82 guys if we have to. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, that's why it took them 30 years to put me in the College Hall of Fame, because defensive tackles got those stats. And they weren't going to vote 3 guys from that defensive line, you know?
To those of us that are his ex-teammates, I wish it would have happened 25 years ago, because he deserved it back then.
Steve has this endearing aspect to him where, you know, the guys on offense loved him, all the guys on defense, you know, loved him. The people loved him. They always loved him. This Hall of Fame thing coming 40 years later is the perfect, long-lasting tribute And it gives credence to that maxim, good things come to those that wait, because he has earned this without question. And everyone that ever played with him knows that and realizes that.
You know, anybody that ascends to that level of play, Hall of Fame level, it's a God's gift, and that's why guys should take it as an honor and a privilege.
This is about what Steve McMichael was able to accomplish on the football field at the highest level. Steve deserves a Hall of Fame because of what he accomplished on the field. And again, I think that's the point that needs to be stressed here. This is not because Steve has ALS. This is because Steve McMichael was one of the greatest football players in the history of this game.
What you do in life speaks eternal, baby. And I am so glad to be a Chicago Bear and part of you guys' history. It's an honor and a privilege